don't take any liberties. Give me textbook definitions, I give you my full permission. Bore me to death and tell me all the rest. And tell me all the rest.
Of a darkness bleaker than night, out on the terrace, wait for the light. They put out the fires that burn in our hearts, scaring the senseless, taking order apart. Are you scared yet? The monsters are real. Are you scared yet? The entropy feels it's got nowhere to go. Nowhere to go but here. It's got nowhere to go. Nowhere to go but here. Walking, running, racing to hide from a faceless evil you'll always be beside. The silence entombs the ache we can't speak until it explodes like a battery leak. Are you scared yet? The monsters are real. Are you scared yet? The entropy feels it's got nowhere to go. Nowhere to go but here. It's got nowhere to go. Nowhere to go but here.
see dry eyelids, we're learning to sleepwalk. You're into so much you cannot begin to explain. If there's a chance, you can return. You know I wait.
Okay, let's get started immediately. So, how you guys doing? Holding up okay? I'm also going to change the image. There will be something on the screen eventually, but we're just going to start off with a picture. Ooh, I accidentally launched the wrong thing. Did not mean to launch a second OBS. That'd be silly. Here's a picture of Starry and Rocket from that one thing. It's a Steam background version of it, but all the same. Let me open up the chat so I can see it. Hi. How's it going there, Smoke? I'm doing okay, not that bad. Okay. Oh, okay. For a second I thought, I didn't read the end of the sentence at first. I was like, you're throwing your head into a wall. Oh, finding the last costume. If somebody finds the last costume, they make sure to let the others know, because I'm going to tell you this, it's by far the trickiest one. Who's the artist that did Sleepwalk? Dolphin is the name. They are a Spanish band, and I like their music a lot, and I got in contact with them, and they're pretty nice and all that, but all the same. Yeah, it's a fat pat. Okay, so we're going to be talking a lot about Red Haze, and specifically, I want to talk to you guys about Red Haze. This is going to be a social stream, and I very much appreciate those who don't mind chiming in for this, because I need this right now. Right, I am more seriously starting the work on the Red Haze mini-sequel. I have been working on pre-stuff for it for a while as I've been working on other projects. I think I've announced the Red Haze mini-sequel for a few months now, a couple months. So some of you guys already may be aware of it. Basically, I want to do a bigger Red Haze sequel at some point, but I want to do what I'm calling a mini-sequel first, which is something that's on a medium-small scale, as opposed to like a huge scale. It will take place in the Red Haze universe, but it's not going to star Rocket and all that. It's going to star a brand new character, and I already know who the character is and all that. I've been debating with myself for a while, because I'll say this. Red Haze was a lot of fun to work on, and I reminded myself how fun it was to work on recently when I was doing the Halloween update. However, if I redid Red Haze, there are so many things I could have done better about it. I'm happy I did Red Haze. I learned a shit ton. I probably learned more working on Red Haze than I have on any other project of mine. But the problem with that is that Red Haze is kind of a mess. In fact, I'll turn this screen on to show you guys an example here. We're going to go into the RPG Maker MV file for Red Haze. I'm not sure if it's going to update well, but yeah, it's not going to update, but I can show you guys screens. Essentially, what you're seeing here is the beginning apartment room for Rocket. It is an eventing nightmare, and this eventing nightmare motif continues through, like, all of Red Haze. Let me just, like, switch the screen back so you guys... It's not going to update for you guys. That's not great. What if I do it like this? Nope. Okay. Well, just know that Red Haze was a coding nightmare, and I've learned a lot to ease up on it. Eventing, the actual eventing part, the coding part, everything about it. If anybody went file digging into Red Haze, like tried to modulate it, I wish them fucking luck, because there's a lot of really weird triggers for Red Haze. In the game, it works perfectly fine, so that's all that's important, but the actual design of the game is a nightmare to go through. When I start working on Red Haze, after a while, I have to remind myself where everything goes and works, because there's triggers for things way before they actually happen, and there's events that contribute in small ways towards other events. Lots of small things and lots of eventing fucking everywhere, but yeah, I know. I was thankfully able to work out the mega lag in the July update. I found the source for it. It was something that you would have never expected. Oh, hi, Rings. Anyways, I I was gonna say, Rings, your art's on the screen. Anyways, what I was gonna say for all this is that there's so much about Red Haze I could have done much easier, but you know I didn't know that beforehand. It was a learning experience, and I've wanted to do a mini sequel for a while, and I've been working on it on and off for like the last couple months along with some of my other projects I'm working on. But I wanted to talk more seriously about Red Haze, so I'm going to ask you guys a lot of kind of strange questions, but I appreciate those who give feedback on this. If you've never played Red Haze, or played other GameWorks games or whatever, I'm open to hearing what you guys say. I will be asking some questions which are specifically about Red Haze, but there's other questions which are more general game design things. Alright? I've never dug into games good on series, but whatever. It's okay, just know that... Right, okay, I'll say this. Right now, I'm really, really thankful to two people. They are working really hard to translate Red Haze into Japanese because they were two Japanese fans who really wanted to translate it to Japanese, and they're doing it freely for the sake of just letting Japanese people play it in Japanese. However, and I wish them luck because I was like, well, I'll help you how I can, but I'm going to warn you, I think that Red Haze would be a nightmare to translate. However, apparently it's going well, so they've updated me on and off about it, so... but they are the ones I feel the worst for with that. But yeah, the Rings is what it is. Anyways, stretching out my limbs and let's start talking. So, Red Haze features a lot of themes and a lot of... I would say a lot of characters. Red Haze's cast is actually pretty small. Like, there's going to be spoilers for Red Haze, but not the Red Haze mini-sequel in this stream, just as a heads up on that. I'm not going to be talking spoilers for the project to come, but I will be talking spoilers for Red Haze itself. So, Red Haze has a small cast of characters. Rocket, Starry, I was about to call him something else. Okay, Edmund. We have the host, but he's kind of more of a supporting character, not a main character. Really, the three big characters, like characters that are bigger than the rest, are Rocket, Starry, and Edmund. They are kind of the three main characters. Then you've got supporting roles like Auntie G. You have the host. You have various side entities. I know you guys don't know the story of all the entities yet because that's not currently in the version. You've got characters like Gregory and Adams. You got Norman. You guys don't really know the story behind the shadow being or the dummy or anything like that right now, but that's okay. But generally, it's actually a pretty small cast of characters. There's a lot of threats and a lot of smaller characters. Like, there's a lot of small characters that contribute to the overall feel of the place, but in terms of actual narrative, there isn't that many characters that you follow closely. Is there a religious undertone in Rocket's experience that she tries various avenues her fate is mirrored by her past choices? I'll let you decide on that one. Well, what do you think is my answer for that one? There's some religious themes in some of my games, I will say that. Red Haze specifically, I'll let you theorize. Plus, you literally meet an angel. Pointing that out, I wasn't going to say anything. Anyways, what I was going to say for this. Now, something which I'm thinking about, some of you guys know the question which I asked on Twitter and the Discord recently. I have been debating really heavily with myself before I start actually working on the game. I've had like 4 ideas for what I'd like to do for a Red Haze mini-sequel, which I have been so back and forth on. I'm pretty sure I know what's going to be the one that wins due to how both the Twitter and the Discord polls went. Firstly, you guys know of the idea for Silent Haze, which is more Silent Hill inspired. I've talked about that one previously. You guys know of Arctic Haze. I should also mention this. The idea behind this thing is a series, just word haze. I'm sure you'll figure that out really, really quickly. Like Red Haze, Silent Haze, Arctic Haze. It goes on like that. However, specifically, I'm deciding which idea which I want to focus on, and I've debated and gone back and forth tremendously because I've got like 4 solid ideas, and all of them I'd like to do it some way at some point, but I need to just pick one and focus on it. So I asked the question recently, and by recently I mean last night, about whether people would be more interested in a setting of a tropical island, a snowy village, or a rainy castle. And on both Twitter and the Discord, the Snowy Village won, and I am A-okay with doing that. That was actually the original idea. I've got a lot written down for the Arctic Haze idea, but there's some things which I wanted to talk about specifically before getting deeper into that. Firstly, Are you guys okay with an Arctic village setting? This is the only specific Arctic Haze question I'm going to ask. It's not really a spoiler though, because this would be like basic information for the game. But would you guys be okay with that, or would you guys prefer one of the other ideas which I have throwing around in my head right now? Because I need to commit to one and then just kind of work at it. So, okay, sounds cool. 2 sounds cool. Sounds cool is apparently lingo that still gets passed around a lot these days. I'm not hip with the kids, you see. Sounds fine. Arctic Village wins of the 3, in my opinion. Tell ideas then before we decide. Hell yeah. Well, Tropical Island, Arctic or Snowy Village, Rainy Castle, and the 4th one was kind of a culty Silent Hillish town, but I decided I was going to hold off on that for the moment. Alright, but Arctic was the one that won, and I've had a longer idea for the Arctic thing. I'm not going to go into that right now, though. We're going to talk more specifically about Red Haze, so backtracking a little bit. Let me ask a general question before I ask more specifically. This also might guide conversation here. I'm going to ask a positive thing and then a negative thing. Pat, there's smoke. What would you guys say, for those who have played Red Haze, this is specifically for those who have played Red Haze right now, what are your favorite things about Red Haze? If you had to, like, just name 1, 2, maybe 3 off the top. I'm just gauging something for a second, so I'm thinking about a lot of things right now, I should clarify. And I know this is, like, a broad question. I'm sorry to, like, spur that on you all out of the blue here, but I do appreciate it. I'll just sit here because I know it's going to take a minute for people to think and write it down and all that fun stuff. But first thing, favorite things about Red Haze. I'm also going to take some water right now. Water is great. Now, I'm going to fill in the silence a little bit because I realize that some people, of course, are going to need to think about it and write it down. The triggers being difficult to find, but once you find them, reasonable. I'm actually going to expand on what you just said for a second. Something about Red Haze, which I was thinking of specifically while I was designing it, is that it was going to be a somewhat cryptic game, but there is a logic behind everything within the world of Red Haze, and part of the fun of Red Haze, I thought while designing it, and I hope this stuck through for people, but something which I was thinking while designing it, is that the world of Red Haze works by some very strange rules, and part of the fun of Red Haze is figuring out those rules, but once you figure them out, it's fairly consistent with them. Essentially, it doesn't really work by real-world logic in a lot of ways, but the logic which it works with makes sense once you start following the trail of logic and getting deeper into it, I think. That was one of my goals, as opposed to things seeming like... What I tried to avoid was things seeming a little bit too random, like there is a train of thought that you can follow from it, but anyways... Personally, I like about being frustrated about the puzzle with friends as we have fun and blame you at the same time. Oh my. The atmosphere is amazing. It really makes the game scary. Atmosphere is important. I really like the main thing of there being separate lives continuity, but still having a main continuity where you make progress. Actually, I know exactly what you mean about that. I never feel safe in any room. I like characters and artwork. Yeah. Artwork can be thanks to Miss Rinks over there. The characters vary. Rinks made Starry, and Sandy, who you guys know better as Kurumi, made Rocket. The rest of the characters were just things I whipped up, but all the same. I like the surrealism and how the world changes each playthrough, which I thought was unique and enjoyable. Okay. So I'm going to ask the polar opposite question, which means I bet some of you guys were guessing it was going to happen. What were your least favorite things about Red Haze? Like, just things that you didn't really like that much about it. Just be honest. I'm asking for good reason. I'm gauging some stuff right now. I have to go, but Ryan, don't forget to sleep enough, please. Oh my. Well, thank you there, Smoke. The RPG Maker controls, though I don't think you can change it. That's not 100% true, but when you start changing the controls, you both lose and gain some things. However, thank you for mentioning that. Something to think about. Thank you for mentioning that, though. That actually makes me think about something. Which actually, I'll write that down as a note for myself right now because I need to write that as a question. Not being able to load saves was frustrating. I get why you did it, and it made everything more scary, but permadeath is frustrating at times. I expected that one, I can say that right now. Save file system, key puzzles. What specifically about the key puzzles? I kind of know what you mean, but I just want to get into the specifics about this. The alphabet room, probably, or the adrenaline revives. But it is otherwise kind of weak to use. You could have like a revive item and an adrenaline that increases run, which could be very useful. You mean like increases your run speed? Is that what you mean? Actually, that's not a bad idea. That increases movement speed. Sorry, I'm just writing. I'm writing down some notes for myself, so all the same. I'm going to give it just a moment more to let anyone who wants to write anything down to get written down, but there's a lot to tackle, and I'll try to kind of blaze through it, so all the same. Don't worry, I misplace my fingers all the time. There's stuff. One thing is done is ought to be done, like access to the underground dungeon. You mean like once you're done with everything you do in the underground dungeon, you lose access to it? Is that what you're saying? For Red Haze specifically, there's something of a time loop going on, so... But that is actually something to talk about. Areas being lost access to. Okay. Pat. Oh, you mean the hydrochloric acid? I think the other thing was that most of the animations were within walkie tiles one at a time. With the 5 frames, it seems a little bit choppy, but it seems fine most of the time, just when moving slow. Yeah, okay. I'll say something about animation. My spriting skills are not particularly fantastic, so I'm like, oh... Well, let's talk a little more in depth. So, there are things which I need to talk about. So, something which I've had as a longer idea for Arctic Haze, which I'm going to say in comparison to Red Haze here. It can be a little repetitive at times. That's definitely part of the design. The thing about Red Haze is that there are things which I want to do differently for a mini-sequel, but a lot of the things were also somewhat intentional when I was designing it, so... isn't really a giant negative. I remember feeling confused about it having nothing to do with Little Red, which you kind of advertise it as. My. I want to do a more straightforward take of Red Riding Hood at some point. I know what you mean. I personally think it has a lot to do with Red Riding Hood, but it's a very different take. I understand that. I can see why someone could play it and not see the Red Riding Hood comparison at all. But, all the same. It was a very loose retelling of Red Riding Hood. Starry is the aesthetic big bad wolf. I'll let you theorize on that for the moment, but all the same. Anyways, we're going to start talking about some things. So, for the mini-sequel, no matter what it is, I want to test out a few systems. One thing which I wanted to change was to switch out what was previously the ending system of Red Haze and switch it more for a day system. Well, that's what somebody theorizes. I'm not affirming or denying anything right now on that sort of front. So instead of the ending system as it was previously, something which I was thinking about experimenting with the mini-sequel was transferring that to something of a day system, where there's natural progression in storylines from day per day, as well as things that you did on the previous day affects things on the next day. I also think that helps a few issues. One thing is that people wouldn't have to restart the game every single time if it's like an ending, because if it's an ending system, then they have to start at the beginning each time. Whilst if it's something like a day system, there's probably several places you can like end for the day and trigger a main event before it progresses on to the next day. It's similar to Red Haze's actual system, but something which I was thinking about was to transfer that into a easier and not quite as start from the beginning system, if that makes any sense. Which also leads to another big difference I was thinking about for the mini-sequel, which was to keep some of the crypticness that was part of Red Haze, but to switch it up to more of a not open world, I don't really think that's the right word for this, though I guess you could describe it like that, but a far more open form of design, of exploration, and being able to open up and progress through areas is one thing which I was definitely thinking more about. Those are two things, but let's talk more about the specifics, because how would I need to ask this more directly? Was with a toy plane? That's with the big update. Anyways, talking more specifically about this, would you guys be okay with a more open exploration type of game for a mini sequel? I've actually been meaning to ask this one for a while, because I understand that part of the appeal of Red Haze specifically is that it's fairly claustrophobic and kind of more in like this entrapped small kind of location, but a location that has a lot of depth to it. I just want to gauge if people be a little more open to something that's more open in its exploration, as opposed to being like a linear path with branches from it. So I love exploration, so yes, I'd be down for that. Okay. As long as it's well done. I mean, that could be true for many things there, Taco. Yes, as long as it doesn't get too empty with the size. Trust me, emptiness is what... here's an opinion. I think empty space has a purpose. A very important purpose, even. But I don't mean, like, big, sprawling, empty worlds. That's not what I mean when I say that. Yep, I'm at the point of doing games that if you have an idea for something, I trust it. Oh, boy. Alright. There's a lot of weird questions I need to ask, so... actually, let's... I wasn't thinking about this to ask this beforehand, but I want to talk it right now. It's something which I was thinking about at another point. I just wasn't thinking about asking it. Let's talk about movement systems, because there is 3 things I can do, and I need to name the pros and cons to you guys. Ready for some discussion? So, let's talk a little bit about movement systems, because this will be somewhat important to talk about. As you guys know, RPG Maker MV has a default movement system. There are ways to break that movement system, but there are pros and cons to it. Making more free movement doesn't strictly have all the best and worst elements about it. Like, here is me starting to talk about some examples. Outside, imagine Red Haze's movement as option A for this. I don't think I need to describe Red Haze's movement. I think a lot of you guys kind of know how it moves. And I'm not talking about like the stamina dashing system. That'll be a separate question, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Just trust me on that for now. But right now, we're going to be talking about something a little bit more in depth. In fact, actually, no, I do need to bring that up. That is important for this. Okay. Retract what I literally just said about the dash system, because this is actually important to mention. There are 3 movement options I think I can pull off fairly easily with a Red Haze mini-sequel, but I need to explain the pros and cons to them. The first is if we use the default RPG Maker movement system, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with Red Haze. Now, one of the pros-cons to this is that there can be a dash system with stamina with the system. Now, let me explain something. Personally, and you guys may have observed this with my games, I don't like movement systems that allow the player at any point to just walk or run in RPG Maker style games. There's a reason for that, because if you have the option between walking and running, you're mostly going to be making the player run, because, you know, it goes faster and people naturally like to apply a system which has faster success. In other words, in terms of movement, if you can run, then running is faster. So, you know, that's pretty straightforward. However, if you're moving at a faster speed, then the whole entire game needs to be designed around that faster speed. That means that enemies need to be faster. That means events need to be faster. It means that the design of the areas needs to be designed with the ability to run in mind, and that makes some huge changes to design. Stamina limits that somewhat, because then it's something you can't just concurrently rely on. And if you make the overall speed faster, there is pros and cons to that as well. Something which I liked about Red Haze and its design is that it's a little bit more slow and exploratory. I kind of prefer slow burn atmospheres, and slow atmospheres don't work as well if you can move really fast, because then even if there's a slow atmosphere going on, it won't really feel slow because you're going fast. Does that make any sense? I hope that makes sense. And I kind of think about the timing of things a lot, like how something will time. Like, a good example of this is in the Custodian's Closet. I thought about things like how Edmund would first appear, or when you enter inside the East Wing, how long it'd be until most players start hearing Edmund. I think about the timing of things a lot when I'm doing design. And with that, I think that the timing works better if there's a consistent speed, as opposed to if there's just a faster paced everything. So one of the big pros of having the default RPG Maker system is that there is a system for stamina, which allows the player to move faster than just the pure walking speed, while also not being able to reliantly do it all the time 24/7. I also think that Red Haze's stamina system is disagree with me if you disagree with me here, but I feel like it was a system which worked pretty well for Red Haze itself. While you do run out of stamina pretty quickly, you also regain it pretty quickly. So it made it so that it was something that you could use, definitely, and people definitely do use it, but wasn't anything that you could concurrently always rely on. But also, it didn't take too long to recharge, so it wasn't an annoyance. But at the exact same time, it could be in a position where if you didn't use it wisely, you could end up getting caught in situations if you weren't, like, planning your movement and utilizing it to the fullest of your advantage. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. It was something which I tried balancing pretty okay for Red Haze. I think it came out good, but I don't know that. I'm not the one playing it blindly, so is what it is, what it is. However, that dash stamina system is very finite in how it can be used. It only could really apply to the default RPG Maker movement set. So unfortunately, the ability to do that gets lost if we do another system. And there are two other systems I can think of. So system number A is a simple system which has some pros and cons, which I'll mention right now. Which map is 306? I don't remember. However, going with it right now, and going back to the topic, the second moving system uses a plugin known as Gal's Diagonal Movement, which I've used in another project I'm currently working on. It's Game 3 of Found Horror, Game 11.x. That script is really easy to just plug in and use. It literally is RPG Maker's default movement system, but with one difference, one small change. It allows the player to move diagonally. In other words, like up left at once or up right at once. It still uses tile movements, so it doesn't trigger automatically, but it allows players to move at diagonal positions. If that makes it does make sense. I'm sure you guys kind of get what I mean. So instead of 4 directions, there's 8 directions. Now, one of the cons to this system is that this doesn't apply to other events, which is kind of strange. In gameplay, it doesn't make a big difference because the events can be kind of pretty smart towards this. However, it's just a little bit weird that they are moving like in the 4 direction systems and you can move in 8 directions. It doesn't help much for you evading, in my experience. I've tested and played with it a lot, just something which I can mention. The other thing, and this is probably the system which I think most people would go for because it both changes the systems of the AI and the systems of how you move. However, it has some big pros and cons which I need to talk about. So there is a more free movement system in RPG Maker, and there's more than one in fact, but there's one which I specifically like to work with, which I'm using for PT Baby Boo, for example. This system allows you to control how many pixels the player moves per square. You can allow free movement, so instead of just moving tile by tile, or even if you make smaller tiles, you can either make them move at smaller tiles, or you can make them move at like a full free movement system if you really wanted to, but there's pros and cons to that as well. It's a rather nifty system, and on surface level it'd be like, oh yeah, that's the best answer, but there are some limitations to such a system. One of the biggest I can mention is that the engine of RPG Maker isn't fully designed or ready for that sort of free movement. It makes things like making events move a lot trickier without the free movement, and everything in design still is tile-based. So even if you have free movement, everything's still in kind of like this boxy tile setup, if that makes any sense. So even if you gain some freedom of movement, it somewhat stands out more that you're restrained to what you can do. Does that make sense? So, and you could make it so it's absolute free movement, or you can make it so that the steps are smaller. And I've been thinking that maybe I'll just do the steps as smaller things, so it's not quite as big tiles to step. One reason why Red Haze's tiles are bigger in appearance is because the game is so small. If I'm going to be honest, that's a big part of it. I've been thinking about making it so that diagonal movement is enabled for both you and events, but then the steps that you can take are smaller than Red Haze's as well, so it's not like 4 to 8 pixels per movement. It might be something like 12 or 16 per movement. Just thoughts. However, if I do that system, the ability to dash stamina will be lost. In other words, there will be no reliable way to have a dashing system, which means that will unfortunately have to be removed because there's not an easy way to get that working. And that would mean that the player moves at a consistent speed the whole entire game. There would be no running or anything like that, just the speed that you have. Like me now to check walls tile by tile and feel like I covered everything. There are 4 options on the table here, which I'm basically laying out. The first one is close to Red Haze. The tiles may not feel quite as big because Red Haze is a small game. I purposely made it kind of small. And then this will be a bigger window, so the tiles won't feel as big because the rooms will all be bigger and etc. So that's option A. Option B is to make it the same, except that there is diagonal movement. And I will say something about diagonal movement. It still moves by a tile. The only weird thing about diagonal movement is that the events can't move diagonally. You can, but they can't. Just something that you just have to accept if you do that sort of system. It doesn't make a big difference, for example, for chasers, but it's, a little bit noticeable. The third option is to make it so that there are mini step tiles. In other words, there's tiles, but they're smaller. And so, like, a single tile can be split into, like, 2 or 3 tiles to make it so that there's smaller steps. And then you can move diagonally, and the events can also move to this. The downside of this system is that there'd be no dash stamina system, so there's, like, no easy way to make the player be able to change speed. I'd have to basically centralize on using a single speed for the whole entire game. The final system, which I can say is just kind of free movement, but of course the whole world is still tile-based even with that. And you actually pinpointed the weirdest thing if you do absolute free movement there, Emily, which is that observing things gets kind of strange in free movement because the observation things are still tile-based. So with me expressing all that, I know that was a lot to take in, but what are your guys' current thoughts for a sequel in Red Haze? Keep it closer to Red Haze's movement. Think about diagonal movement options, even though that only affects you and not other events, which has some oddities. Make it so there's smaller step movement, but you lose the ability to dash, so you have to move at a consistent speed the whole entire game. Or make it so that there is more free movement, but that still the whole world will be tile-based, so it makes interacting with things a little bit weird, but all the same. Yeah. Your same thoughts there, Seth. Alright there, Taco. Instead of to run less, sign the notes. I'm also going to take Explorer here. Okay. Yeah, okay. Is the world the manifestation for subconscious? I'll leave that to your imagination. I'm not going to answer like deep lore questions at the moment for the record. I like to leave that more for the game to say than for me to say. Here's just my opinion. I'd rather the games speak for themselves rather than me speak for the games. Does that make sense? I think it makes sense. That's just personally how I feel towards it. All the same. It'd be interesting, but probably not necessary. Yeah, Red Haze style is cool. Watch this. He sounds kind of great too. Welcome back there, Smoke. Okay. There are more questions I need to ask, so... Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next question. Thanks for the feedback there. There's definitely things to consider. In fact, I'll write down the note there for myself. A or C movement systems? Stamina or partial tiles, but no running. Just writing that down for myself. Okay. Next up thing to talk about, because there's multiple things that we need to talk about here. We prepared, the keyboard's ready. I'm going to get one of the more controversial questions out of the way. So, I'm pretty sure most people who play Red Haze are more okay with sensitive issues and themes. There's definitely going to be some of that with the follow-up idea. I'm not going to talk specifics right now because I said there wasn't going to be spoilers, so I'm not going to do that. I do want to talk about something about Red Haze, though, which was something that I talked about with Kurumi when she was making the sprite of Rocket. Kurumi was the person who helped concepted Red Haze's original idea and did the character design of Rocket. We had talked about the idea beforehand. She didn't end up helping too much of the development due to a lot of her things in her own life, but she helped with the initial conceptualization of the game. And one thing that we talked about early on, she and I both have a personal theory that sex and horror is a very interesting combination, and that there's a reason why those two things often end up together. It's a strange thing, but interesting thing. And one thing, though, which she had asked during development is that she wanted to... when she was doing the sprite of Rocket, she'd asked me, I was like, hey, Ryan, can I give her pubic hair and nipples? And I'm like, At the time, I decided no, because I was worried about Steam's content stuff mainly. It's like, no, we'll just do Barbie anatomy. Not to mention that some people are uncomfortable with stuff like that, so maybe it might be a-okay. Long term, though, there is more nudity and sex exploration in some other projects of mine. Particularly, I want Blank Slate to star a nude male protagonist, and there's another project known as Decree of the Moonflower, which stars a nude female protagonist, and they're both kind of in line with each other. Now, for the sequel to Red Haze, and this is kind of an awkward question, and I appreciate those who answer this, do you guys think for a sequel, for the themes of sex and all that, should there still be more Barbie doll anatomy? And by the way, I should mention this, is that the idea for Arctic Haze would have both male and female nudity. That's something which I should mention right now. There would be both nudity involved here. Do you guys think it'd be better? And I know there's a third option, which I will say in a second, but there's complications with that, which I'll share. In my personal opinion, I think that you either go for one or all instead of like a halfway, let the player choose option. That's just my opinion because I've thought about this. You guys think it'd be better to stick with the sort of Barbie doll anatomy and make it so that both the male and female nudity has no genitals and just the idea of it somewhat represented but not really fully there, or think just go all in, let the nudity be in? The problem with that concept, of course, is that raises the age gate of the game tremendously and makes it so that the audience may be far more finite. Because then after I put that into the game, the problem is I have to start marking the game as having like severe nudity, which means that Valve, for example, won't really rotate the game as much. They'll allow it in the store due to what they recently said, but it does mean that I'm going to have to age gate a lot of things about the game, and yeah. And it won't really be advertised anyway by Valve, essentially. There are some games where I'm exploring the nudity more fully, but I don't know if this one is the right... I'm 50-50 on this one, is what I'm saying. Now, let me say something. There are reasons for the nudity to be here, but it's not as... I'll say it like this. This game doesn't have sex as big of a theme as two of the other games which I'm talking about, which is Blank Slate and Decree of the Moonflower. This one does have it, and the nudity is important to an extent. I'll give a really easy example here. Nudity and freezing climates have interesting possibilities, which I'll get further into. I don't want... No, actually, I said I wouldn't give any Arctic Haze specifics, but I've been debating further about some of the specifics here, so... Follow the transcend the first one and make sure the entire player group can move forward. That makes sense there, Seth. Alright, evening. Welcome there, Minty. Before all other games go for it, it's useful for a specific reason. I agree with that. It's just how I've been debating. For Blank Slate and Decree of the Moonflower, I've been very, very certain about this. I had one qualm, and Rinks might remember that if she's still here. But ultimately decided just to go in with it, so... Okay. They're sensitive topics, and I somewhat appreciate the external thoughts on that, just because it's kind of important. That makes sense, Emily. Alright. Important questions to ask. Alright, so... Here is a odd follow-up question to all this. Something about the Red Haze... No, actually, no, I don't need to ask that question, because I think I already know the answer for myself there. That'll probably be okay. Oh, yeah, this is a question I need to ask. Okay. Here is an honest-to-God question, which is a really tricky one, I think. It's about game design. This one I've been really heavily thinking about, so let's talk about it. So. El Capan, I'm just going to point out, keep in mind, I haven't said that the main character of the follow-up is going to be female. Anyways, going off with all that. Going off of the next front here, the next question which I need to ask, which is kind of important, this one is very important to touch upon, is that permanent... I'm trying to think of the right word for this. It's like on the edge of my tongue. I don't know why I had it in my head before I said this, but now I'm trying to remember it. Consequence. I don't know why I didn't remember it. Permanent consequence. I was trying to remember consequence of all fucking things, but for some reason it just escaped me. But permanent consequence. So, there's a little bit of that in Red Haze, but it's not really fully there. And I wanted to push it further in a follow-up. There might be permanent consequence to certain actions that you do. The game is using a day system, which lets the player progress a little bit more naturally from day to day. And I want to make it so that... oh my there, Smoke. I want to make it so that the players can affect more within the world and the story and all that than they could in Red Haze. Because in Red Haze, even though you change things about the world, ultimately... you know, the game, like, time restarts and all that. So even though things do change, it's a little bit finite in what it is. What changes more than anything is your knowledge of things so you can maneuver better. For the follow-up, I want there to be more that actually changes, and with the possibility of more actually changing, one thing I've been considering is more permanent consequence towards things. Let the player do some crazy things, and I need to talk about that because I'm not sure how some people will feel about it. So I wanted to ask you guys about this. Like, here's a random example. I'm going to use Red Haze as an example as opposed to, like, Arctic Haze, just because some ideas here. And alright there, Minty. He was just in and out there. It's okay. So, for the front here, imagine in Red Haze if Rockette could get the strange knife, like, really early in, and could make the decision to murder Starry. And if she murdered Starry, Starry would just be gone for the rest of the story. That's a pretty extreme example, but kind of getting to the point which I'm talking about. Permanent consequence for the run until inevitably either like erase your save file, start over. Something which I need to clarify, I do want to provide a system so the player can absolutely restart if they want to at any time, but for all intents and purposes, if you want to continue with the run that you're doing, that is a permanent consequence for this point in time. And there'll be other things like further explorations of things like the doll system, which happened in Red Haze, and going much further with stuff like that. The problem with permanent consequence is that there could very well be examples of players doing something, not realizing that they are permanently affecting something, and there's some fun in that. There's some fun in making players not realize they did something huge without even realizing it, but at the same time, there could be some frustration with that, if that makes any sense. So I wanted to hear your guys' opinions on if a Red Haze mini-sequel setup had more consequence for actions. I should also mention, I'm using the word consequence, but not all of the consequences would be bad, if that makes sense. Some of them would actually be quite good, just permanently affecting things, and things can't go back to the way they were before unless you like really just start all over. So I just want to hear some thoughts on that because I've been thinking about it. So I'm not going to put a Telltale blank will remember that thing. I know what you're thinking of there. And to be honest, Telltale's a terrible example of this because Telltale games didn't really make your consequences matter a lot of the time, like most of the time, so in simple words, you want to make a suffer for your actions. I mean, that's one thing to think about there, Smoke. If there was a way to make restarting not tedious, if you decide you need to start over, then sure. It wouldn't be tedious. I want to make it easy so the player can restart, but the thing is, restarting would mean absolute restart, which means... Now, I'll say this. This game, I want to make more open form, so there are progress things you need to do, obviously, in days to pass, but just something to note. If there was... Okay, but if we can hurt Starry, making it an immediate awful consequence... Well, so I was just using Red Haze as an example, not giving any specifics here. I think we're going to play with the permanent consequence. I try it in a shorter game first. So that is the perfect... This is a shorter game, Emily. I mentioned this before. This is the Red Haze mini-sequel. I'm calling it the mini-sequel because eventually I'd like to do a bigger sequel, but I'm using the mini-sequel as a sort of smaller follow-up to test a few things with. And so this is actually the perfect project to test something like that. Pat. If you kill Starry, yeah, I think it'd be interesting to play with then. If you kill Starry, you should get karmic retribution right after. Is what it is. Now, there's actually a follow-up question to this, which is going to get some of you guys to go like, oh no, Ryan. And I need to talk about this. The save system. And I have debated really heavily on this next part, so please hear this out. Out of all the questions I'm going to ask today, this is one of the most important, because this is one I've been really 50-50 split on, and it makes a huge difference. So, there is something I am decided on 100% with this game, and this will be the only minor spoiler about Arctic Haze I will say. It's not a big one. If you're worried about spoilers, it's not. I need to share this, though, for this particular plot point, because it's important for the context of the question I'm going to ask. Trust me, though, it's not like a big story spoiler or anything. It's the game design thing. It's not a really big one, either. So, an idea which I've had for a really long time, which is inspired by a dream I had years and years ago, is for and this one isn't like a whole new idea to video games. It's not like this is something which has never been done, but I will say it's not been done quite like how I'm picturing it, but I'm not going to go into full details. The basic idea is that when you die within the follow-up to Red Haze, you end up in something of a death realm, and that death realm has a few things to it, And ultimately, I've debated this next point extremely heavily, is that if the player dies way too many times or ends up in the death realm too often, then they may permanently have to start all over. As in, they have messed up too many times, and there is actually a consequence to this. Now, that immediately sounds like, oh no, Ryan, no! But there's some reasons I'm thinking about this, and I'll get a little bit further into it. And it's going to be a little hard to explain without going deeper into what the death world is, but all the same. I do think that there should be things in the game to help elevate death options, and to make it so that you can get more tries at death if you take the time to do some things within the world itself. Not like really hard out of the way things. There's things that you can spend more time doing for some award takeaway things. Again, you want to make us suffer sometimes, maybe. However, there is consequence. Go to church. However, the downside to this is kind of obvious. The upsides I will try to describe right now. If there is a penalizing death system for you as the player, and not just for the other characters in the game, which there is somewhat of a death system, which I'm not going to get too deep into right now. Oh, I almost forgot to mention this. I'm not going to talk specifics. I'm trying as hard as I can to talk about this without specifics, but death is a really heavy theme in this game. Okay, just know that right now. Death is really important. You and any other, even if you personally cannot die, any other character in the game can die. And that's kind of super important to this idea, which is partially why this permadeath idea for your character is kind of a part of this, because death is a huge theme in this game. Okay, I need to clarify that right now, because it's not like, oh, just permadeath. It's not. There's an actual point to it, which I'll mention there. However, it also helps guide the players. The bright side and the good things to this is if players are aware that death can maybe eventually permanently kill them, then they're probably going to be a lot more tense and value their life a lot more rather than just throwing it away a lot of times. It means that there is a way heavier risk-reward thing going on, which that adds a lot to horror scenarios if you're aware that death doesn't just mean that you're going to die and restart a checkpoint and be able to start again. If you are aware there's actual consequence to failing, which does add tension to situations and make players more act like they're an actual person within a game, as opposed to being like, oh yeah, I can just do this as many times as I like. Which that sort of mindset I think is kind of good for this particular scenario I'm imagining here. That's the first thing. The other thing is, with there being ways to ease potential death and make it so that you can take more risk and if you're willing to take the time to do some things, that means that can affect player mindset, because then that also adds some specific feelings. Without talking too much about the sequel, there's an area which I want to be absolutely safe for the player within the game, which is kind of where they start off the game itself, and they're free to venture out, but venturing out goes into the unknown, while where they are currently is safe, and they can do things in the safe zone and kind of just make themselves more prepared in various ways before venturing out. Does that make sense? So players, instead of just rushing out to go wherever, might want to spend more time in the safe zone to both prepare themselves, because there's ways that they can make themselves more ready and be able to take more deaths if they spend more time here before heading out. Does that make any sort of sense? Now I'm going to read what you guys wrote, because I'm just going to catch up here because I need to explain that. I think it's interesting to play with, but okay. Can you make a suffer go to church to get more afterlives? I mean, go full Dante. Other characters should appear in the death realm, like Starry. Oh, I'm not going to tell you how to talk anything about the death realm right now. I like the death realm, but the save array sounds unfun. Maybe it'd be cool to do something with the death realm, having some sort of trial minigame. It's easy, pretty fast, but more than some sort of permadeath. Full Swedenborg, or permadeath that erases you slowly from existence every time you die, or a choice becomes default altered. That'd be terrifying. I mean, I see where you're coming from. The second time I have to redo everything, I would most likely drop the game for a long while. Pat. There is something which I should clarify, Sign. There's one last thing, which thank you for mentioning that, because I'm trying not to talk specifics about the game here, but I've had this idea, which I guess I'll talk on. you wouldn't have to redo things even if you started all over. Without saying too much, playthroughs of this game can be really dramatically different. I think one of the fun things about Red Haze that wasn't fully explored is how different things could be depending on which pathway you're going down. This is kind of an expanded take on that, except instead of it all contributing towards something, essentially you can end up in completely different scenarios based on things that you're doing within the game. And like, if two players start talking about their experience with the game, they might find out that their stories are completely different. I won't speak too much further about that. This is just an idea which I've had to experiment with the mini sequel. So I hope this all makes sense. I'm trying my best not to talk too in-depth specifically about things. It's just an idea which I've had for a Red Haze mini sequel follow-up, so anyways. There are things that the player may need to repeat, but then that's also true of Red Haze. But I want to make it so that there isn't too much repetition, even if they have to start all over. That things may go very different, and also the fact that they've died once kind of sticks. I said one time. I'm not gonna say anything more. Hi. It's kind of a controversial thing, and so I really do want to hear you guys' thoughts here, because I'm still split on it. I'm for it, but I also can see big reasons to be against it. I haven't played too much Dark Souls to say too much on there, but yeah. I forget the question, I'm drunk. Papather Elk. It was a really long question. Basic questions about the death system. There's a lot of specifics I could touch on, but I want to go over it all again, so I think if you're going to be playing with new things, a short mini sequel is a good one to go crazy with, honestly. If things don't work out, it's just a mini sequel. My. It's good points. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to do a mini sequel before I do anything bigger. Just because I have a lot of experimental ideas I want to sort of toy around with, so he wants to make us suffer. He likes to drink our tears. Maybe a little bit of truth in that, but I also like players to enjoy themselves, so not just... I don't just make my games to make people suffer. Just a little bit of sufferings. Alright, go with what you believe to be the best learning experience for you. Okay. I played Please Love My Computer Game. Please Love My Computer Game more than most of my games was just to make people suffer. I decided to make it free for that reason. Because I think people wanted some free suffering. Still, don't know how to open that damn washing machine. Pep after Emily. Okay. Well, more things to think about. Oh! Here is something which is... I am so happy. I almost forgot to talk all about this. This is really important. Figure that pretty quickly with Please Love My Computer Game. I'll say this. There are some really good points in Please Love My Computer Game. But Please Love My Computer Game, more than anything else I've made, was definitely partially made to make people suffer. I will say this also. My personal opinion, I think Please Love My Computer Game is currently the scariest game I've made. I think some people think that Red Haze is scarier, and that's A-okay. Just, I think that there's something about Please Love My Computer Game, something about its unfriendliness and its crypticness and how weird it is, and it's just its look and everything, its atmosphere, which makes it actually really scary, even to me when I play it sometimes. All the same. Anyways, here's the question I was going to ask. This one is really, really important. And nobody has talked about this with Red Haze. Neither when I talked about the pros or cons. Okay. So. Voice acting. As soon as I say voice acting, I think you guys might know what question I'm about to ask. So, one thing which I do enjoy doing is putting voice acting in my games. But there's some pros and cons to that. And I mean, you can think of systems like, oh, you can put in an assistant so players can turn the voices on and off. And yeah, but the thing about voice acting is that it does make the games take more time. Like, honestly, I'm going to speak honestly here. The Red Haze big update would have been done sooner if voice acting was not involved in the project at all. Because a lot of it has come from me needing to finalize the lines before I send them off to the voice actors, because I rewrite my dialogue over and over again. So I can only ask for the voice actors to start recording when I'm sure I'm not going to be altering the dialogue anymore, which means it's pretty much close to when I'm towards the end of development, because I changed my dialogue so much. You guys don't even know how much each and every single line of dialogue in Red Haze has changed so much since the my initial write it up quickly version, and then all the times I've revised them and all that. I've been displeased with my computer game. I mean, you never did. Pat. On the flip side, though, voice acting can add something and charm and all this. I don't think everybody likes my choice in voice acting. Like, I hear a lot of people don't like Rocket's voice actor, but she did, in my opinion, a fantastic job, and she did exactly what I wanted. The thing about Rocket, though, is I didn't want her to be immediately likable. Like, a lot of people, I think, are put off by Rocket at the beginning when she's voicing her first dialogue, but then they might like her voice more in some other endings, and the thing is, that was completely intentional. The idea behind Rocket was that she starts off a little bit initially unlikable. Right, Ryan de Cthulhu's abyssal asshole. And then over time, you begin to learn more about her humanizing functions and stuff. I like Rocket's voice a lot too. Also, another thing about Rocket's voice, and this wasn't 100% intentional, but I really like how this turned out. Most people can't place Rocket's. Let me ask this: if you guys already know the answer, please don't answer. What accent do you guys think Rocket has? It's the accent of the person who voiced them, and I'm just curious what accent you guys might think it is, because it's very obvious that Rocket's VA has an accent, but I don't think many people can pinpoint what the accent is. I want to see what you guys think of. Okay. Nobody would be able to guess this is the unfortunate thing, so I'm just going to say it. So, Rocket's accent, if you're curious, her VA is from Ireland, but her dad is Irish and her mother is Japanese, and she grew up back and forth between Ireland and Japan, and her accent is like a strange hybrid between Irish and Japanese, which I think is fascinating. But all the same, now you know. Is what it is. My third guess. All fun there, Seth. I think it's interesting too, but all the same. Anyways, but I'm not sure. I know not everyone likes Rocket's voice, and I've been debating, because if I don't do voice acting for a follow-up sequel, on one hand, that makes it so that development will go a lot faster. I did decide if I did the mini sequel, I might not time the dialogue like I did with Red Haze, which did make it take longer than if I just did the voice recorded lines. But the problem with timing the conversations to this is if the player has to replay the game certain sequences again, they can't just easily skip through it as quickly if there's time stops in the dialogue, which there was in Red Haze. Which is something which I've thought about, and I've debated. The other thing about the follow-up to Red Haze is, due to the type of game it is, it needs more characters. And if there's more characters, it would probably need more voice acting. And the problem is, I'm not in a good enough financial position to offer paid roles for a good number of voice actors at all, because I am not in a fantastic financial position myself right now. Now, I'm also somewhat aware that there's a lot of people who would probably be willing just to do it for free, but I don't like taking advantage of that. Boy. Make it Skyrim dialogue skippable. Let me just say this right now, Elk. There is no way my mom would ever agree to this. My mom hates that I love horror games. She is super religious. And all the same, she kind of hates what I do. So, Seth. My. A point to you. Oh, okay, I see you're pointing to yourself there. It took me a second to understand. But, and also the other thing is, the dialogue gets like weird. The other thing, which is why I get a little bit apprehensive of maybe doing dialogue, is because some of the dialogue, and like imagine Red Haze's dialogue. I'm really, really thankful to the voice actresses that lent their voices to the roles. And of course also to Ian, who's now passed away, who lent the voice to the few roles that he lent his voice to. But there's like some weird dialogue. Like the one which I'm going to say, which I think a lot of people find and could think of. Like, here is an actual line of dialogue from Red Haze, which I'm going to recite right now. Squeezing your honkers between two hardcover books. You know, like stuff like that. That there's some dialogue which is purposely kind of strange like this. And I feel a little bit bad about being... I know that some people don't care at all about stuff like that, but it's a different thing between writing something and saying, like, oh, hey, can you say this for the game? You know, it's a little bit of strangeness. And then that's getting them to do it for free as well. It makes me like, is it going to be CG'd? What do you mean by CG? Do you mean, like, art stills? Or you mean, like, CG, like 3D? CG? Fairy tale dialogue, root option. Yep, you remembered. Yeah. My there, Emily. But some of the dialogue's rather strange. And then there's also weird scenarios that, you know, like turning into... A lot of people... Okay, so I'm going to spoil this one a bit. The monster rocket design in the ending, if you lose at Pale Smiles game, was inspired by a parasite that infects snails. A lot of people I see call it a frog or a fish, and that's okay if that's what they see. That's great. But if you want to know the inspiration behind it, it's a type of parasite that infects snails. And now you know. My there. And voice acting if you have the money for it. Oh, I don't have the money for it. That's the problem. It also makes things take more time. Oh, I also should clarify this. This isn't so much a question, but something which I want to say. Red Haze essentially was kind of like an early access program in its alpha. For those who were involved in the alpha for Red Haze, you may remember this. There was a long period of time where I released updates and got feedback for things, and the game grew over time. I'm thinking I'm going to do the same thing with the mini-sequel for Red Haze, but I think I'm actually going to properly label it as early access this time. That's something which I should clarify here. The thing which I'm thinking is if I do get voice actors to voice things, I might wait until near when the game is done. Because one thing which has been an issue is scheduling for the big update for Red Haze. So if all the dialogue's already ready at some point, then, you know, that might be better than, like, calling in the voice actors at multiple times. Be like, okay, will you be available here and then to record this, that? So I might hold off on voice acting until later, actually, now that I'm thinking about it a little bit more in depth. Okay. There's more things which I want to say, but I'm not sure. I think that's most of my major questions out of the way. The only things that are left are smaller questions. I'm thinking if there's anything else I absolutely need to ask. Is there any other questions like you guys have for anything? Turn the tables around, let you guys ask anything. Maybe it'll make me think of something as well, but it could be about Red Haze, Arctic Haze, as I guess it's going to be, because we're going with the frozen setting. Anything of the sort, so... I have Smashing. Yeah. Pat their elk. Yeah, I've had a good day. Today and yesterday I've been good. I got off a bad couple weeks. For those, the day that I uploaded some more Ian videos on my YouTube channel. I think it was like a week or two ago. When I did that, I got into a really bad depressive episode for like a week or two. I'm still not completely over his death, but I'm feeling pretty good right now, so... If my mom knows that I was still awake, she's going to kill me. You should probably get some... I think we're winding down now their smoke, By the way, also I should do this. I'm going to link the Discord. If any of you aren't part of the Discord, let me link you guys. There is a Yay GameWorks Discord that we use a lot. You have to post introductions and all that, but reminded me to say that there. Oh, well. Pat their stuff. Who's your favorite character? I don't really have a favorite character. It's a thing where they're all my babies. But more so with all this, it's like... I want there to be love given to some characters that don't get love as often. Like Ghastly from Close Your Eyes. It's not that she gets zero love, but she gets so much less love than, like, from Close Your Eyes specifically, Marshmallow Monk and the Host and Simon and even the girl. It's like Ghastly is the one that gets shifted the most. I'm like, oh, Ghastly. Is there going to be a good ending? If you mean in Red Haze, eventually there's going to be an ending better than the rest. Yes. Oh, why the switch between Duskull and Aesthetic Gamer? Do you have a preference? Nah, I just use them both online, differently based on how I feel when I make the account. There are 3 names I go by online. It's Duskull, Aesthetic Gamer, and Yay GameWorks. Why am I their smoke? No, why they're royal. There are some pretty big Simon fans. I know that for a fact. Oh, hi. Hi, Cat. No. Duskull. Okay, so Duskull, let me explain him for a second. Duskull is supposed to become a character, but that's actually not a new thing. Originally, the username Duskull came because I used to write down game ideas when I was growing up all the time in notebooks, and Duskull was one of the characters I made, and I just really liked the name Duskull, so I decided when I started going online, I just named myself that. Ultimately, I do want them to become a character, though. Originally, they were a character, so all the same, all the same. I'm a Simon fan. Yeah, either Cat. I definitely know Simon fans. If I said something about, okay, you guys are gonna get an exclusive detail about Simon I haven't told anyone, and I don't like talking a lot about the characters' beginnings or anything, because they evolve over time, and I feel like what I think when I'm making them isn't important. It also shows how much of a fucking novice I was back when I was making him. So when I made Simon, I was thinking about this particular thing. I was thinking about how it's really popular on the internet for really terrible people who do these terrible, terrible things be romanticized in weird ways. And I decided I was going to make a character that does such terrible, horrible things. There's no way that they're really redeemable in any way. And honestly, they're terrible and toxic for anyone they get close to. But they have a big romantic angle and view this all with the eyes of a romantic. So that's... However, playing into that, a lot of people... And he got romanticized. Well, you succeeded, clearly. Fat Pass, just the idea behind Simon. There you go. I was thinking about those characters, how a lot of people online... Not to be sexist, but I think it's definitely true that there's a stronger presence of that attracting female audiences online than male in this particular case. And so I was thinking about, I was like, well, you know, there's like these horrible, horrible people. You know what gets really fucked up, though? And this is just me thinking for a second. When people apply that to like real life people that have done real live gross shit, like... Sorry to bring up this controversial topic. Like when people romanticize real-world school shooters is a great example of that. Where I think that's where it gets way too far, and it's unfortunate that is definitely a thing. All the same, though. Some people just have fucked up taste. Say hi. Is what it is. Plus Monk, I certainly have. All of the characters in Close Your Eyes are kind of fucked up. You know, it's part of the fun of it. Oh god, I need to make that thing now. Okay, I'm sorry. I need to say this right now. I just imagine like Simon coming to somebody. He's got like these bug eyes, so he's like looking at you, but his bug eyes aren't looking at you. And one of them is like a lazy eye, and then he like blinks, and his eyelids close like alligator's eyes, so it's not like a human eyes. Just imagine, and of course he kind of looks a little bit like a cockroach and that little bug with a needle thing. That's just that picture popped up in my head. I've grown fond of Simon, so it's can't wait for people to see more of Simon and feast your eyes whenever that gets done. And Pat Pat the Royal. Ryan secretly commissions the fan works. Well, I'm fortunate. I'll say this. My games aren't very big yet. I haven't had a game that's like a big success. I've only had like medium, small successes, and I can't even say medium. I've had smaller successes. I'm happy with it though. However, I've been gifted with a really strong shitposting community, and they draw a lot of art. I think I receive more fan art of my characters than most indie devs do, and especially indie devs that are as small as I am. I am really fortunate for that. I don't even really need to like commission people; they'll just draw it. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm happy. Oh, hi there, Seth. I'm thankful for it, so... I literally, this is not an exaggeration, I received hundreds and hundreds of pieces of fan art, so I'm happy. Hi, Rinks. You've returned. Or you just posted for the first time in a while. You could have been here this whole time and not really known. Is what it is. Is Starry the image of Rocket she feels she could have been? What do you think, Elk? Breakfast soon. I see, I see. I have seen hundreds, and the news should not be used like that. Pat, Pat. I'm just fortunate. Anyways, I need to think. Is there any other questions about the Red Haze mini-sequel I want to say before I work? I'm going to work on music. I've got the music stuff set. Let me show you something. So before I start streaming today, a lot of people ask how I make music, and I can show, because I'm in the middle of it right now. I was going to start working on music for Arctic Haze, because I was pretty sure Arctic Haze is the one I was going with. So what I spent like the last few days doing is I made and took some of my previous unused MIDI compositions, and I also took things I recorded from Audacity on my microphone, just like sounds. Like I've got a lot of random things here that make sounds. Like here's one of the things I use a lot. Let me do a random sound as an exemplification. A lot of random things I have around here just because I like recording random sounds and trying to figure out how to use them in music, so stuff like that. Just play the game, Wilson. Going through it there, Wilson. Any ideas towards a frostbite type encounter if it's snowy? Yes. Actually, that's something to do with the nudity element. One of the things I thought about for the mini-sequel is how to expand on every system. And one of the things is how can I expand on nudity in Red Haze? And if you're in a snowy environment, there's a pretty easy answer to that. Like, what happens if you're in a snowy place and you're naked? I mean, think about it. It's not very hard to figure out, so I was going to say. Going with all this, just play the game fun. Before we get completely off topic of Simon, can I ask a lure question? Sure. What's up there, Cat? What do you want to ask about Simon? Depending on the question, I may answer it, or I may not. Anyways, I can show this screen for a second, though. So I put together a lot of things in Vegas. I took MIDI compositions I put together, as well as a lot of random... yeah, okay, let me fit it to the screen here. As well as like a lot of random samples I have, sound recordings I've recorded, sounds I've modulated, and I haven't done the mixing yet, but I collected a lot of samples to start my music making, because I've got literally, I've got thousands of samples and recordings, and I've got quite a few MIDI compositions I've put together when I feel like making MIDI compositions. I can put in the music later. But I imported all the things I'm going to focus on for the Arctic Haze soundtrack, which right now it looks like this inside Vegas. I can get more into the specifics and all that, but it's like 7 hours worth of sample stuff to work through, and I need to mix that into a soundtrack. So yeah. Did Simon come out of the factory? That's the question. Shall I say, well, what do you think? Quick question about the Halloween event. Is this bloody rocket supposed to kill you in the freezer, in the freeze frame room? She's just walking around but can't kill me. What do you mean by the freeze frame room? Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Ah. That is actually a glitch, but I don't actually mind that too much. Huh. How am I there, smoke? She moves, let's see. If everyone has different names for the same rooms. It's part of the fun. It's not completely intentional, but I don't hate it. Like, here's a good example of something which wasn't intentional, but I like, so I kept it. The red light was not supposed to go after your ass immediately after you got spotted by it once in a run through. That's technically a bug, but I liked it, so I kept it. It also works with some other things in Red Haze, which is, like some things you can't do that play through because you do other things. So I decided just to keep it, because also it means that when the players get to that floor, then per run they can give it another shot if they messed up previously. It's not a bug, it's a feature. Well, sometimes bug things can be, like, oh yeah, I like how that actually works out, so. Yes, what it is. Rolls as goes. The song's stuck in my head. I think that's all I need to say. I could probably just talk more with you guys, but I should probably start working on the music tonight, so. What language do you code in? RPG Maker uses JavaScript. Annoying, and then when you put the teal ring on the statue, it does nothing. Well, the teal, let me say this. In the big update, the teal ring is going to be really important. You guys want one Red Haze spoiler. One spoiler for Red Haze. It's not a story spoiler. It's nothing like that. It's just a spoiler for an item use. Also, behind the top left bookshelf, the event tiles are missing, so you can just walk behind. Yeah. There's actually a couple bugs I'm aware of in the Halloween update, which, that's... I was expecting this because, honestly, I didn't have anyone to bug test it outside myself, and, so you don't test... There's always small things that you overlook and all that. But yeah. Hasn't been written yet, at least. Unrelated, but if I join the Discord, do I have to do anything special? Just make a post introduction saying, hi, I'm this person, I found it through this. And then you'll be approved and you're all good. I do recommend looking at rules because we do have a few rules for the server, but all the same. He's about to reveal a secret? Okay, well, I'll reveal a secret because this one isn't going to be a big secret. You guys will figure it out. The teal ring thing is going to be super important eventually because the teal ring quest is related to opening the door in the very first room in Red Haze that you can't open at the moment. That's all I'm going to give you guys, but all the same. Make sure Kate doesn't find your every secret. That's out there, Master. You have 2 cold ones. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Okay. Now, is there? I'm trying to think. Is there anything else I want to say? Is there anything you guys want to say? Because I think I asked all the questions I want to ask. Thank you so much, everyone who's answered them for this, by the way. It actually was really super helpful to me think about and decide some things. I like the light humming. Oh yeah, sorry. There's a song stuck in my head from Arctic Haze stuff. I played the music earlier, so it's right now stuck in my head. In fact, I'll play the song I have stuck in my head because it's right here. Yeah, there it is. Is it this part of the song?
Dictionary put me down and educate me. I don't want any part of this. Give me all the differences, categories, misconceptions. Give me technicalities, but don't take any liberties. Give me textbook definitions. I give you my full permission. Bore me to death and tell me all the rest. And tell me all the rest.
The song stuck in my head. I just wanted to listen to it. Probably going to interrupt the music, I guess. You're correct. Well, I'm about to leave you guys, probably, because it's a little bit late and I should work on music and all that. But it's stuck in my head, so I wanted to... I'm surprised that this song... Like, okay. Let me play this. So... When the trailer for this game goes live, I've known the trailer music for this project for fucking ages because I worked it out ages ago. That is Shipwreck by Death of an Astronaut. Yeah. Rolling and going with. The trailer song, though. I hope people like it. Well, I'll just play it. This song gets stuck in my head more often, but it's not stuck in my head right now. We'll listen to it, so then we'll get stuck in my head. This one's short, though. This one's like 30 seconds, because I've had the trailer theme version of it ready for a while. It was just for who I should draw with multiple limbs for Gortember. I know who I immediately thought of, but that character is not a character you guys know of yet. You guys want an exclusive Yai Gameworks character look? You guys want to see something which I want to keep one of these characters I have where you're like, Ryan, what? Okay. So let me give credit here, first where credit's due. You mentioned earlier about the King of Shitposting. Good old, I'm terrible with names, holy hell. Anyways, Ralph, as I know him, I don't remember what he goes by here, but I know him as Ralph. Ralph was really, really kind to me and made it so that he did some sprites for a project, which you guys will see more in depth later. But you're making me think of one of the monsters which I described and he sprited for me, which I think could be a good character. In fact, it fits what you were describing almost to a T. I will show two things related to this one monster. There's more than one monster he drew for me here. But I will show you stuck in my head here. I'll just show the sprite version. Here is the sprite version, a little bit smaller than it normally is. There you go, feline. Yep. I've ran 2 things related to Close Your Eyes Rays for October. Oh, link them to, if you join the Discord, link them so I can read them. Shining, shimmering, yeah, I know. I want to draw Rocket with Halloween costumes. Like, if you want to draw all of them, that's going to be a little bit strange. Actually, I would love to see that. Smoke, are you part of the Discord? I'm terrible with name association, so... She's got 8 costumes, but might be a little bit weird to draw some of them. Some of them are kind of joke costumes, all 7 costumes at their master. Is what it is, what it is. Grr. Oh, actually, this is a good question I want to ask you guys. Out of the Halloween costumes, which ones do you guys dig? Which ones are you not that fond of? I actually wanted to ask this question in the Discord, but I'll ask it here because you guys are here. I can draw them, but yeah, that's what I was hoping that you would do there, Cat. I just got here from rehearsal for High School Musical, literally. Oh, why there, Cammy? The Mariana dress is nice. Blue dress is the best one. Oh, you guys really like the blue dress. Then you also like the light one. Zombie Rocket scared me when I saw it first. Thought it was violent. I haven't played the Halloween update yet, but I plan to when I have time. There's an I like the stripper one. Wait, what the outfits look like? They're available in the Halloween update currently. Anti-G looks cool when you put it on, is what I will say. So, Mariana's dress one is a lot of popularity. There's actually an interesting story about Mariana's dress there, which I was going to say. So, I was just going to just kind of make Mariana's dress just a costume for Rocket because I thought it would look interesting and all that. But I'd actually forgotten that Mariana herself was slightly transparent because, you know, I'm not going to go too much into that. But... there's a lot of dumb jokes in the costumes, and one of them for Mariana's dress is because it's like the lower half of the dress is like transparent. So I was like, oh, yeah, that's kind of funny. That's the story behind that. And the key is in room 306, but I can't find it in the room. My. Yep, if you can find the girl's bathroom key. Fun. A good ghost. Fun. I'm gonna sell the costumes for tomorrow because now my mom can kill me. Pat. I will make a comment about each of the costumes because I have them open here and I will give you guys one comment on each costume just because I can. Yep, there's a joke. A lot of the costumes are based off of joke things. I will say one comment about each. Okay, so first of all, Kawaii Desu Mask. That's from the April Fool's update. I decided to make it unlockable because, you know, why not? It's just a silly kind of sloppy costume, but all the same. The code searching is hurting my eyes. What kinds of costumes are there? There are 8 in total. Do you want to see them right now? Like, we can have a discussion about each of the costumes. Let's talk about Rocket outfits. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm just having fun with this. But I'm going to do it. So, spoilers for the Red Haze Halloween update. Fabulous! Let's do it. Let's talk about them. If people are going to draw them, let's discuss them. Because we can... Let's start off with the April Fool's one. The Gazalinks. So first one is, this one's just a mask. It does add a little bit of a lull in the back of it. It's from the April Fool's update. I decided to make it unlockable because I know some people like the Kawaii Desu mask, as I call it. No mind there, Emily. It's dumb. This one's like the most simple. It's also the hardest one to unlock. But I made it the hardest one to unlock because it's kind of like the least remarkable one, if you have to ask me. It's a joke to me. The reason, in my opinion, I think it's a dumb, silly, fun costume, but it's like the least remarkable costume, and that's part of the reason, as a kind of a joke to myself, I made it like the hardest one to unlock on purpose. When you guys said that, when 2 people said they didn't have one costume unlocked, I knew immediately which one it was, so... Yeah. Is the key in the freeze room where you're supposed to have text? I'm confused which key it is. The key from that room is what opens up the first floor of the lighthouse. The reason there's no text is because if there was text, then the monster, if it was really close to you, could come and get you. So, yeah. Looks like E.T. Alright, well, that one's pretty self-explanatory. Next up is Rocket's stripper outfit. Which there's a story behind the stripper outfit, which I will talk about in a second, because I think a lot of people see this outfit like, Ryan, what the hell? But first, I'm curious what you guys think of Rocket's stripper outfit. Da, 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 da. The monster that doesn't kill you. My. I think it's a mood. Okay, I'm really curious, Kat. How do you think the outfit's a mood? Not crazy about that one. Didn't think too many people would be too crazy about it. There's a few things about it I thought were kind of funny. Not quite. Yeah. Well, am I either elk? Yeah, I was very confused when I saw it for obvious reasons. Best outfit, the general staggered house. Just woke up that fabulous. Yeah, the sunglasses just make it like look. I can talk about this one. You guys are actually tapping on what I was thinking here. I'm happy the costume comes off like that. I think it's just kind of silly. It looks like she was just fucking came back from some sort of party wasted, and there's kind of a joke in it. The hat and sunglasses are a big part of the joke there. There's this really dumb video which I can never remember what it's called. Whenever I want to remember, it's like one of those videos which I've seen more than once, but I don't remember where it is. The whole costume isn't based off of it, but the hat and the sunglasses are. It's sorry, it's a really dumb video. I'm not gonna get to it right now, I guess, but is what it is. So chicken nugger, bees, Ferber. Next up, we have the skull costume. I personally like this one a lot. It's the most Halloween of the costumes. Skull costume. Just makes Rocket red, and she gets a giant skull thing going on. Pat there, Cammy. I like the look of the skull. That's like how it goes into like a weird angle when you're walking to the left and right. I don't know. Her with a giant skull face, I just find cool. That's just me, though. Yeah, I think it's cool. I think out of all the outfits, it's the coolest one. It's the one which I personally have some fondness for because it's like the creepiest one. Well, okay, the creepiest one might go to one of the other two, but it's like cool creepy, if that makes any sense. Pat there, cat. I think the zombie is a bit more creepy for me. Yep. There's 3 outfits which I think could qualify as creepy, but still though. This one I think is the most quote-unquote aesthetic costume, which is the light costume. It's pretty simple, but I kind of like it. I'm really happy with how it turned out. My tongue is cold. You probably shouldn't keep your tongue out too much then. Pat. I'm kidding, but... My favorite's the stripper Auntie-G and the skeleton one. Yeah. I like how this one came out. It's just kind of neat. I don't know. It's a random dumb thing, but there's not too much I have to say about that one. It's like how it looked, really. Alright, next up we have Zombie Rocket. Which, honestly, this one came out a lot creepier than I thought it was going to when I started it, but... Hey, what are you gonna do? Now, there's a slight glitch on this costume, but I decided to keep it. I knew it before I released it, but I decided to keep it. The face is like a mask, and there's a frame of it where it's a little bit off adjacent to her face, but I kind of like it because it looks like the face is like somewhat peeling off, but the zombie costume could be a favorite of many. I thought this one came out a lot better than I thought it was going to when I started work on it, so... Hello, Zombie Rocket. Tell me all the rest. I enjoy a little shine in her hair so much. Oh yeah, a little sparkle shine that she has. This one has a strange little, like, slightly transparent touch to it, so... Have that there, Cammy. Oh. Yeah. I mean, a lot of the costumes for the front, so I didn't want that sliding to the back, but... Cool, cool. Next up is Mariana. So I just wanted Mariana's because, you know, like in Red Haze, Rocket can get Starry's outfit, but I wanted her to be able to get Mariana's outfit. But I kind of forgot that, you know, Mariana's partially transparent. And so just spawned a dumb joke in my head, so I just kept it. Because, like, the upper half, that's all perfectly fine. But then, like, because the dress is, like, translucent, it's like, oh, okay, well, it's kind of funny. So, hey, Ryan, did you get my question about backer keys? Yes, I did. I need to send Found Horror Game. If you're talking about Red Haze backer keys I sent out, like, 2 years ago, but... Looks so elegant. Yay. The elegance. I like. You know, it's just Mariana's dress. I think it looks good, though. I also like that it works in 3 ways. Both, it's a nice-looking dress. And it has a point within the game itself. And it has a slight comedic element where I was like, oh, okay. So I like it, too. Rolls as it goes, as it goes. Next up, we have the Anti-G costume. Which... I like the Anti-G one a lot because it's really strange. You'll see. Rocket's Anti-G costume. My. The face is unnerving. Oh no. Yes, I know. It's the Anti-G costume. I decided to go all in with the Anti-G costume to make it like Anti-G. So, you know, part of the fun. Psycho's terrifying. Pat. It's just Anti-G's face. It just looks creepy on Rocket. So say hi. And now, the final costume was kind of a joke, because, you know, Rocket was in Girls' Graveyard, and a lot of people know that now, so... but I decided, like, hey, you know what, I'll just take her classic costume and just put it on Rocket. And pretty straightforward and all that, but I decided, as a joke to myself, I wasn't going to alter the costume at all. I was literally just going to slap it on Rocket and see what happened. And the result made me go like, okay, that's pretty funny. And so I had to keep it. The retro Rocket costume. I imagine you lightly touching someone's back awkwardly every time you say that. Oh my. That's kind of what I'm picturing, if that makes any sense. Yay. Well, yeah, it's just, again, I was just like, I'll just slap the costume on, and then got results. Is what it is. Oh, my other cat. Yeah. Rocket is Rocket. Well, it's more like going full 8-bit because that was her costume in Girls' Graveyard, but anyways. Those were the costumes. There's actually one other costume, but you don't need to unlock it. It's just something that's hidden in the normal game now. I'm either Cammy. Pat the Royal. Now, those were the 8 costumes, though. Should I tell you guys the secret one? Yeah, fuck it. I'll tell you guys the secret one. Or maybe I won't. I won't. Actually, no, I'll say it. You can see in the files. I'll fucking say how you activate it. The 8-bit costume was the joke outfit for me, and I decided to go one step further with it. This one I don't think anyone's found because no one's mentioned it yet. This is going to be so stupid. So, let me explain where this one came from. This is such a stupid story. Okay, get ready for a stupid story. If you unlock the retro rocket costume and put it on, then go back to the mannequin to put on your normal outfit, I decided to make a really dumb joke. I call it the Porky Pig costume, and I'll just post it and I'll tell the story here. I was thinking to myself, like, well, you know, Rocket's original costume only kind of works as a shirt. Actually, it's like her jacket, and she's just not wearing pants. And then I thought, oh, you know what, that'd be kind of funny if she just took it, went back to the mannequin, and she was wearing it, and just... And then I was like, oh, and that makes her kind of look like Porky Pig. And I was like, okay. There's that dumb story. Now you know the dumb logic I went through for that one. A lot of times there's dumb stuff in my game that goes with this. Claps. Pat, pat. It is what it is. Well, this one was just an extension of the last costume. In fact, it's not anything you unlock separately. It's just if you go back to the Rocket mannequin after you've put on your retro costume, just because I was thinking to myself when I was putting it together, it's like, well, Rocket's classic costume is basically the jacket she wears. Oh, actually, that could work. And then there you go. That's how that one was born. My mither smoke. And now you guys know about the 9 costumes for the Halloween stuff. The 9th one isn't an unlockable, you just need the retro outfit, and yeah. Okay, I should probably work on music. Music is what I need to focus on. This costume stuff. Is there anything you guys want to talk about, ask, question, anything like that before I go off and focus on music making? Well, yeah, I mean, I like saying yeah. I'll give you a hint. The key for the girls' restroom, which is where you get the kawaii mask, is around the east wing of the apartments. Discord link? Okay, I can give you guys a Discord link. There's a Discord link. Master, did you find it? I'm not going to say too much. My mother, master. Well, thank you there, Elk. To join the Discord properly, just make a post in introductions, and you'll be good to good. Oh, I hate it when there's like something. My leg had to have a crack thing yesterday, but it was like feeling weird, but I couldn't make it crack until eventually, so yeah. I'm gonna play with my Wi-Fi doesn't start working. Oh my, Cammy. A second, pat. I think that's all I was gonna say. Thank you guys for answering the questions earlier. It helped me out a lot. So, things to keep in mind as I get into more serious developments. Anything else I can think of I need to ask? But you guys are still here. Oh my, master. Anyways, until next time, I shall bid adieu to all of you. Wish me luck with the music making, and here's hoping that YouTube's bots are a-okay with the things that are uploaded with this. And am I the royal? Well, sorry, there's habits I kind of get through, and padding is currently one of them. Like, you know, me saying yai, yar, hoi choi was an old one. There's a lot, and they kind of change over time. Pat is my current thing for me, I guess. Good luck. Have an idea of the times? Okay. Adieu for now, and toodles to all of you. Have you followed that, Seth? Adieu.